Why do I always realize it when I've already lost it? For quite some time now, I've always had this urge to just never really get into a lot of seinen series, but I guess that's just natural when it came to growing up in a majorly high shonen environment, and it's just kind of stuck with me for a little while now that maybe I'm just not the type of person to really enjoy that kind of stuff, and that was pretty much the case until I of course actually tried investing my time into more seinen anime and manga. And along those lines, over the past couple of years or so, I think I've finally found my way within so many stories I connect to a lot more in the seinen genre than what I would usually find within the shonen demographic. And that's not to diss the typical battle shonen or just general shonen story, but I've definitely found some light in other parts that typically I thought I would never venture off to. And like so, I ended up finding Berserk fairly long into the progression of the story, and as of right now, I'm currently not caught up with Berserk. I'm about over 170 chapters or so right now, so I'm about halfway through the story towards being caught up. And I kind of just wanted to throw my thoughts out there, so for when I do catch up, I can make an updated video on the series so far. And some may believe me, some may not, but to me, the premise of Berserk itself in a fantasy medieval-like story is something I personally find the most interesting when picking up, say, a movie or just like a regular book. So to find a series like this in a manga format, I instantly was captivated by the world as it is. And that's not to show that the world isn't even the best part about the story. And to know now why so many people have this series at the top of their list isn't surprising, considering towards the very beginning of the manga, you pretty much get a taste of what to be expected later on down the line. And I think I can confidently say that as of right now, by the time I'm caught up with the manga Berserk, it will most likely solidify itself in my top 3 manga of all time. So with that, I think it's about time we hop into my thoughts and current feelings as of right now for the series of Berserk. So to kind of touch back on what I said earlier, the series of Berserk was already something I was interested in just because of the whole premise and setting that the series takes place in. So with that, I had already initially grown pretty attached to the world surrounding the story, and it definitely was a different experience, but nothing I haven't seen before, where at the start of the series, you're initially thrown into the world without any context of what you've been put into till later on down the road. And of course, the way the story plays out in chronological order from what I've read is the Golden Age arc, the Black Swordsman arc, and the Conviction arc. But at the start, you're immediately thrown into the Black Swordsman arc just to kind of get that feel of what Guts' character is like post the Golden Age arc. And I mean, from a writing perspective, I personally don't have a problem with it. I think it fits perfectly with how we get to see this kind of brutal man named Guts go into the series, killing off not only just apostles, but humans as well in this kind of nonchalant manner, to then moving into the Golden Age arc where we get to kind of see more of a backstory on Guts' character and how his traumatic childhood led to the way he acts and does things now. Where, to make it all the more worse in Guts' favor, we finally see how someone even like Guts can find sort of like a family in a sense, and finally find some place to call home, for it all just to be washed away within just one eclipse. And although I found this outcome to be expected, but within the eclipse itself, I was surprised on just how the turn of events would lead to this outcome, if that makes sense. And now with the Conviction arc, which I'm pretty sure I'm basically almost done with, it has me wondering what's going to be in store for me when it comes to these next upcoming arcs. And now when it comes to what I think is one of, if not the most important aspect to this series, is the dynamic between both Guts and Griffith. And I've known for a while now that these two characters kind of coexist within each other, and when it comes to the protagonist and antagonist debate of the best pair, their names would always be mentioned within the conversation. And likewise, as of right now, their specific dynamic might grow as the series move forward, but for the Golden Age arc specifically, is kind of where we get to see the both of them share the most time together. And I've always seen the debate on quote unquote Griffith did nothing wrong, and still as of right now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I also don't entirely disagree. And I've also never seen any type of video or discussion about it, just mainly so I avoid spoilers. I've just seen seen that phrase thrown around within the community, and I'm not sure if that's how it is for most people, because for people to say he did nothing wrong is kind of exaggerating, but what at least I think most people mean by that is that for him to give in to the God Hand and follow his dream, basically, Griffith had to make a choice on whether or not he would betray his comrades or go through the hard route of achieving his dream and potentially never being able to will a kingdom of himself. And I mean, everything Griffith had done up until that point was for him and not really anyone else other than Guts at the time, and honestly, for what Griffith had did and done during the eclipse was completely uncalled for. I think that right then and there, when he handled Casca down in front of Guts, he was simply just trying to show Guts that he's on top and is superior over him. And I guess that's where his kind of evil-like mind comes into sense, because Griffith had seen Guts with Casca a ton during the rescue for Griffith, but in the end it was all just for him. It will just come down to a perspective on how you view Griffith's goals versus what he actually did during the eclipse. If you ask me personally, his goals were his top priority, nothing else really mattered like I mentioned before, other than I guess Guts, but everything forward was really just a villain within his character. And to kind of put into perspective the other elements that surround the series of Berserk as a whole, to me there's still a lot that's very mysterious, and I like that about the series. I think in fact how every so often, especially within the earlier half of the series, we get to see things like the Skull Knight, the God Hand, elves, and some apostles every so often, rather than it just being spammed within the series. I definitely see later on down the line we get into more of that fantasy set type of era, more than what I've seen already within the Conviction arc alone. But it kind of keeps this mysterious feeling of the world to a ground level, and it so often feeds you bits and pieces here and there to keep you endorsed into the world more than what you might already see yourself involved with. And I've had to really think about more so the outcome of the future of this series in a way. I think I shouldn't be expecting anything too crazy, obviously some amazing things here and there, just so I can keep myself leveled with the world in of itself. And my time with this series so far has been nothing but absolute enjoyment. And I guess my only criticism I would have towards this series is to try to make a lot more side characters compelling, but maybe I'm just not used to something of a smaller journey building upon very few characters to circulating the world around them. I'm more so used to the opposite of multiple characters being built up upon to a much larger journey like One Piece for example, and it's definitely different and something I'm for sure going to have to get used to, especially if I want to read a series like Vagabond for example. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what lies ahead for the rest of my journey through the story of Berserk. And to everyone who made it to the end of the video, I hope you all did enjoy the video. At this point in time, I feel like I've been holding off this series for so long for absolutely no reason, and I'm glad I finally got to reading it and especially making a video on the first half of my thoughts on the series as a whole. And if you want to see a second part for when I actually catch up to the current serializing chapters of the series, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. But anyways, make sure before you click off the video to drop a comment on your thoughts on the video and let me know your overall thoughts on the series of Berserk altogether. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord if you have not already. We got the Discord up and running again, so join the Discord, link in the description box down below. And with that everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.